Hey everyone, so today's the first day in class that we're going to be using our notebooks. So this is my notebook and I'm going to set mine up so that you can kind of just try to copy what I do to keep your notebook really nice and organized. So here's the cover of my notebook and here's my the very first page. You're going to do the same thing I did. So you're going to write at the top what page number it is. So this is page 1. And then you're going to put a title for this page, which is this is going to be our table of contents. And you're going to split it into 2 sections, just like I did with the page number and the title. And then you're going to go ahead and write down our page number and title that we're going to be taking notes on for today. So go ahead and pause the video and set up your table of contents, and then when you're ready, we'll move on to page 2. And all you're going to do on page 2 is write the page number and just write table of contents at the top, and we're going to leave page 2 empty. Okay, and then at any time you can pause, and then we're going to go to page 3. So page 3, we're going to write the title at the top, and the title of page 3 is Using an Area Model Strategy, or excuse me, Multiplication Using an Area Model. And we're also going to write down our learning target. I can use an area model strategy to multiply 2-digit numbers. Okay, so take a moment to write down the title, the learning target, and example number 1. If you need to pause the video, then go ahead and do that now. Now what I'm going to do is for the learning target, I know what the title of the notes for today are, so I'm going to highlight some of the keywords. So I know since area model is in the title that's important. And this is also telling me what I use the area model for, which is to multiply. And the other thing I'm going to highlight is just right here where it says example number 1, because I want in my notes when I look at them to be able to find the examples very quickly. Okay, so if you need to pause to get a highlighter, and if you don't have a highlighter, you can just underline them for now. If you have any kind of colored pencils or pens to underline, that's better than just regular underlining, but either way is fine. And now we're going to go ahead and set up our problem. So the first thing I do when I see a problem like this is I'm going to take my bigger number here, which is 33, and I'm going to chop it up into 30 plus 3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle. It doesn't really matter what size your rectangle is. I'm going to draw a line down the middle, and see where I just wrote 30 plus 3? I'm going to write 30 plus 3 on the top right here. And the other number for my problem is 4, so I'm going to write 4 right here. Okay, so I take my 2-digit number, I chop it up into 2 smaller numbers, and then I just put the number 4 on the side. And now I'm going to look at this as 2 smaller multiplication problems. So even if you just use a multiplication chart, which is my goal for you to be able to do this without a calculator, but just a multiplication chart, you should be able to do these after we practice it a bit. So the first thing I'm doing is 4 times 30. So since I know that 4 times 3 is 12, I know 4 times 30 is 120. And then I'm going to do in this box 4 times 3, which is 12. Okay? And then all I'm going to do after that is I'm going to take those 2 numbers and I'm going to add them together. And there's a lot of different ways I could think about that. But when I add 120 plus 12, I get my answer of 132. And let's go ahead and highlight that because that is our final answer and we want to know where we find that in our notes. Okay, so after you're done with that one, then we're going to go to example number 2. And for example number 2, the problem we're going to do is 66 times 5. And now I'm going to take my highlighter, and just like I did before, I'm going to highlight example number 2 because I want to be able to find this when I look back in my notes. And the problem I'm doing is 66 times 5. I'm using a dot to represent multiplication instead of the X symbol, so if you're not familiar with that, that's all that dot means is times. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same few steps I did before. So before I took the number 33 and I split it up into 30 plus 3. Now I'm going to take the number 66 and I'm going to chop it up to 60 plus 6. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my rectangle. And I'm going to write 60 plus 6 on the top. And right in between the 60 and 6, I draw a line down the middle. I know that both sides of the rectangle are not equal, and that's okay. We're just trying to help our brain think of 2 smaller multiplication problems. And this problem is asking me to do 66 times 5, so I'm going to write a 5 right there. And now I'm doing 2 smaller problems. The first one is 5 times 60. So we can do 5 times 6 because we can count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So 5 times 6 is 30, which means 5 times 60 is a 30 with an extra 0, so 300. And then we just did 5 times 6, which is 30. And now I'm going to add those 2 numbers together. Oops, I already wrote the answer. So I'm going to add 300 plus 30, and you might do 300 plus 30 in your head. Gives me a final answer of 330. And again, I'm going to highlight my final answer, and I'm going to just label it here. Okay, and now we're just going to do one more. So let's go ahead and write down example number 3. And this one we are doing 44 times 21. Now let's stop and think for just a second. I'm going to make a little note here. This is a 2-digit times a 2-digit. So it's a little bit different from the ones we did earlier. So for this one, I'm actually going to chop up both of those numbers. So I'm going to take the number 44 and I'm going to split it up into 40 plus 4. And I'm also going to take the number 21 and I'm going to split it up into 20 plus 1. Then I'm going to draw my rectangle, and watch how this rectangle is different from the other ones we did. So this one on the top, I'm going to write 40 plus 4 and draw a line just like we did before. But now the difference is that on the side, I'm also going to have 2 numbers because I have 20 plus 1. So I'm going to have not 2 multiplication problems like we did before, but this time we're going to do 4 multiplication problems. But they're all going to be pretty small ones. So the first one is 20 times 40. Well, I know that 2 times 4 is 8. So there's 2 zeros there. So it's going to be 20 times 40 is going to give me 800. 20 times 4, again, 2 times 4 is 8, but this time there's only 1 0, so that's going to give me 80. 1 times 40 is 40, and 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, so now we have 4 numbers to add together. So let's think about the best way to do this, you could just do this part in a calculator if you want. 800 plus 80 plus 40 plus 4. So if you want to challenge and you want to try doing that in your head or by writing it out, go ahead and try that and pause the video so that you can see if you got it right. But our final answer for this one is going to be 924. And again, I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. And I kind of ran out of space to write that it's my final answer, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And that is it for your notes for today.